folks. Try again. In the beginning, even then, a new light was sown for righteousness, a promise that your light would become the catalyst, first for order and then for hope. God, author of language and light, help us to use words as you have, to cast light into dark waters and to draw out justice and truth.
Or chadash al Tzion ta'ir v'nizkeh kulan emera le'oro, Baruch atah Adonai yotzera me'orot.
How deeply you have loved us, Adonai, our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life, be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. Enlighten our eyes with your Torah. Focus our minds on your mitzvot. Unite our hearts in love and reverence for your name. Then we will never feel shame, never deserve rebuke, and never stumble. Having trusted in your great and awesome holiness, we shall celebrate your salvation with joy. Gather us in peace from the four corners of the earth, and lead us upright to our land. For you, O God, work wonders. You chose us. Truly, you drew us near to your great name, that we might acknowledge you, declaring you one in love. Praised are you, Adonai, who chooses your people Israel in love.
V'avicheinu לשלום בכנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו כמיעוט לארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה. ובאנו בחרת וקרבתנו לשמך גדול של באמת, להודות לך ולכתך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך, בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
When our ancestors beheld these truths, they proclaimed, among all the gods we can name, who can compare to the one beyond naming? Among all the qualities we can label, number, mark, and measure, Who compares to the mystery at the heart of reality?
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים, לשמך על שפת הים יחל כולם. הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי ביי בים ביבי במי יבא ביי ביי בים בם, יאי ביי ביי בים ביבי במי יבא ביי ביי בים בם. איי די 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 יבא ביי ביי בים בם, איי די 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 יבא ביי ביי בים בם. צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל, ודחינו מחיידה בישראל. כה עלינו עיני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Rise for Amidah.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניכם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור עולם אדוני, מחיה כל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מקלקל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומטיל אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וכרזל זה ואמר.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלכו הארץ כבודו.
אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו מאדיר, שמך בכל הארץ.
עלו כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
אחד הוא אלוהינו, ובינו מלכנו ישמיענו ורחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם,
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מקדשי מקדשי שביעי שבת, כולם ישמעו ויתענגו מטובך השבת. לכו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. מהשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת. עמדת ימים אותו קראת השבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית.
A great pianist was asked, "How do you handle the notes so well?" The artist answered, "The notes I handle no better than many pianists, but the pauses between the notes, that is where great art resides. In great living, the art may be in the pauses. Shabbat is that pause between the notes."
ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Adonai, our God, many are the evasions and deceits which we practice upon others and upon ourselves. We long to speak and hear truth only, yet time and again, from fear of loss or hope of gain, from dull habit or cruel deliberation, we speak half-truths, we twist facts, we are silent when others lie, and we lie to ourselves. But we stand now before you, and our words and our thoughts speed to one who knows them before we can utter them. We know we cannot lie in your presence. May our worship teach us to practice truth in speech and in thought, not only before you, but before our fellow human beings.
ברוך אתה אדוני שותך לבדך בין נעבוד מודים אנחנו לך.
Modim anachnu lach, to you we give thanks. Giver of life and all good gifts, grant us also wisdom to use only what we need, courage to trust your bounty, imagination to preserve our resources, determination to deny frivolous excess, and inspiration to sustain through temptation.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך ולך להודות. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עמך הוא, עמך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עמך הוא, עמך. ברכנו יוצרנו, כולנו כאחד. ברכנו יוצרנו, באור פניך. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עמך הוא, עמך. כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד, ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה, ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים שלום, טובה וברכה, הן בחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל. עמך הוא, עמך.
We take a moment for silent personal prayer.
עושה שלום, שלום במרומה. עושה שלום, שלום במרומה. עושה שלום, שלום במרומה. עושה שלום, שלום במרומה. הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל אמרו אמן. הוא יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל יושבי תבל אמרו אמן.
Continue with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for reading Torah.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. הרחמים היטיבה מרצון את ציון, תבנה חומות ירושלים, תבנה חומות ירושלים, כי בך לבד בטחנו, ולך אל רם ונישא אדון עולמים. כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני בירושלים. ברוך שנתן תורה תורה, ברוך שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד, אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו. גדלו לאדוני איתי ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו בהר קודשו. רוממו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
As a kid, I always wanted a magic 8-ball. Remember those things, those mysterious black orbs that you give it a shake, you ask it a question, and then all of a sudden appears an answer, right? Will I ace my bio exam? Will I get that new Atari cartridge that I'm hoping for? Right? And then, boom, right there, you got the answer. It's certain. Right? Don't count on it. It is decidedly so. Now, once in a while, you would get a less clear answer. Ask again later. Better not to tell you now. But even then, you could always just shake the ball again, and you would receive your yes or no. There was something delightful about putting a question out into the world and getting an answer back, even if you knew it was just a random answer selected from a finite set of responses found in a little black ball. I was reminded of this week. I was reminded of the Magic 8-Ball this week when my daughter Hannah and I were walking around the campus of Yale University, and we noticed on one of the buildings the emblem of Yale University, which has 2 Hebrew words in it. Well, what were those 2 words? Urim and Tumim. Seems that the Yale University plucked their emblem, or those 2 words, out of this week's Torah portion, because the early Israelites had their own version of a magic 8-ball. It came in the form of a breastplate that contained the mysterious Urim and Tumim. Okay? However, instead of responding with a set of pre-generated answers, the answers came directly from God and always proved to be definitive. Okay? In this week's Parsha, Tzav, Moses prepares Aaron and the soon-to-be new set of priests to step into their roles as religious leaders of the Jewish people. As a part of that preparation, Moses clothes his brother Aaron in his religious garb, placed upon him the breastpiece, which earlier in Parshat Tetzaveh we learned was the breastplate of decision that contained within it the Urim and Tumim. Now, what exactly are we talking about? Okay? Well, we're given a clue later in Numbers where Joshua is asked to, or they're talking about Joshua becoming the leader, and they explain that he is supposed to stand before the priests, the entire assembly, right, and ask him the question, and that Eleazar, the priest at that time, would obtain the decisions for him by inquiring of the Urim and Thummim. So for centuries, the Israelites were able to ask and be answered through the use of this Urim and Thummim. And then something happened. We learn in the Mishnah that when the earlier prophets died, the Urim and Thummim ceased. Well, after the death of Solomon, that direct line to God was no longer available. Right? What does it mean to live in a time when there are many questions but no clear answers? In a time when we can no longer divine God's guidance through the Urim and Thummim, how do we move forward? How do we know what's right? Well, the rabbis offer us two models for what it looks like to live with uncertainty. The first from the very pages of the Talmud, actually of the Gemara in the Talmud. In the rabbis' search for answers, they sometimes arrive at a question for which there was no answer. After a back and forth argument, realizing that there was no satisfactory or clear answer, there are moments when the rabbis stepped back and said, Teku. Teku is an Aramaic expression meaning let it stand. Let it stand unanswered. Given the rabbi's commitment to lengthy back and forth discussions in an attempt to arrive at the truth, it's always a bit surprising and unsettling when our rabbis give up and say, Teku. Rabbinic tradition has it that when Elijah the prophet comes, he will rule on all of those disputes. But until then, the rabbis of the Gemara accept this uncertainty and they move on because they have to. Because there are other pressing questions awaiting an answer. They teach us that sometimes we have to accept that for which we do not have an answer. And yet, just as important as it is for the rabbis to model how to live with uncertainty, right, how to step back and say, Teku, they also model that sometimes, even without a clear answer, real life demands that we choose a path forward. There are things that I take away from this. First, as I said, the rabbis of the Gemara brilliantly model what it means to come up against questions for which there are no answers. We try as hard as we can to answer them. We throw every piece of logic and every evidence we have. But when we come up empty-handed, we have to step back and admit our uncertainty. Teku, let it stand unanswered. And at the same time, sometimes real life demands answers to questions that matter. We can't afford to throw up our hands and wait for some hopeful day when Elijah will tell us how it's done. Rambam, Maimonides, teaches us that sometimes you have to do the best with the information that you have. You have to pick a side. You have to make a ruling. You have to move forward. We see this same process echoed in the writing of the modern-day responsa literature. What should a halachic ceremony look for two people of the same gender? What should we do to combat climate change? And what are our obligations as individuals and as a global community? Is it permissible to use money that has been tainted through theft and corruption for the purposes of a greater good? We don't have the liberty to turn to our Urim and Thummim and get a clear answer from God. And while there is something comforting about the yeses and nos and ask me agains of the magic 8-ball, we know that the mysterious and inscrutable ball doesn't offer real guidance, but rather simply random answers. Instead, we have to do what our rabbis have done in every period since the time of the Gemara. We have to dig up and dig into our resources, our sources, so that they might find something that is possibly relevant. We have to consider all of the possibilities of all of the possible ways of applying these sources to the question at hand. And even if and when the path forward is still unclear, we have to make space for our own moral intuition to guide us. Then we have to make a decision, because we can't sit with the teku undecided before us forever. Because real life requires real decisions, even when the way forward is unclear. Because our lives are on the line and the world hangs in a balance. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to be reading from Parshat Tzav. We're going to be reading right from the very beginning of the portion from Leviticus chapter 6, verses 1 through 6. If you'd like to follow along in your Eitz Chaim Torah commentary, you are welcome to do so. You can find it on page 613. Page 613, Leviticus chapter 6, beginning with verse 1. Please join me in the blessing before reading Torah. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai mevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, צו את אהרון בבניו לאמור, זאת תורת העולה, היא העולה על מוקדה למזבח כל הלילה עד הבוקר, ויש המזבח דלוקת בו, ולבש הכהן מדובד, ובמכנסי בד, ילבש על בשרו, והרים את הדשן, אשר תאכל האש את העולה על המזבח ושמו אצל המזבח ופשט את בגדיו ולבש בגדים אחרים והוציא את הדשן אל מחוץ למחנה אל מקום טהור. האש על המזבח תוקד בו לא תכבה וביער עליה הכהן עצים בבוקר ירח עליה העולה והקטיר עליה חלבי השלמים אש תמיד תוקד על המזבח לא תכפה.
Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Knew there was something that was missing here. We acknowledge all those who are in need of God's blessing of healing of the body or healing of the spirit. In this Shabbat, we are thinking about Mariana Anidos, Audrey Aronchek, Deanna Aronchek, Charles Barna, Francine Barna, Baruch Ben Sion, Ben Bracha Chaya, Osvaldo Barraza, Rick Center, Esther Bad Ariel, Dr. Helen Fagan, Susan Friedman, Marion Gordon, Deborah Hartman, Peter Herrera, Gedalia Ben Ita, Shoshana, Cecile Jacobs, Ed Johns, Mindy Elizabeth Jones, Susan Jones, Charles Cantor, Dr. Benjamin Lechner, Jack Lieb, Judy Levy, Susan Linzenbaum, Leah Tova Bar, Shemai Ben Michael, Robert Parker, Elka Rock, Shaul Ben Moshe Verivka, Daryl Saferstein, Barry Shanerman, Janice Schneider, Suzette Schultz, Simcha Bat Esther, Lillian Stein, Kevin Webb, Sid Weisel, Yudit Bat Rachel Avianko, Uri Zerach Ben Ruth. We ask God's blessing upon them. Mishaberach Avatenu Avraham Yitzhak VeYaakov Ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech Ve'yirapeh Et Cholim Kodesh Baruch Hu Yamalei Rachamim Aleihem Ahak Leimah Monorapotam Alachazikam Alachiotam Vaishlach Bimhei Ra Refuah Shlema Refuat Nefesh Urefuat Guf B'Tok Shar Cholei Yisrael Ashtar Ba'agalav Izman Kariv and Omar.
Amen.
Say Amen. Just a reminder that for those of you who read it in the Mosaic, in my article, and as well, that with the help of the Jewish Living Committee, we are changing our minhag and our process regarding Misha Berach. We're really using this list for those who are either immediately ill or who have life-threatening diseases, life-threatening illnesses. And so you'll see over the next few weeks as our list shrinks down. That's not to say that we aren't praying for all people who are in need of prayer or feel the need for prayer, but we are working to make our list a little more manageable. And I encourage you to read in our last Mosaic about those changes, and if you have questions, for you to reach out. We are going to now lift the Torah and ready it.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. יאי לי 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 לי
As this is the Shabbat before Pesach, this is considered Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat, and therefore we have a special Haftarah, that comes from the prophet Malachi, and in this case, it is like what we will celebrate tonight during Pesach, about the redemption of the people. In this case, as with all the prophets, it is a reminder that even though we have done things wrong, that God still loves us and that God will redeem us from our oppression. If you'd like to follow along in your Eitz Chaim Torah commentary, it's on page 1296. Page 1296. I'm going to have a hard time. Right. There we go.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנביאים טובים ברצה בדבריכם הנאמרים באמת ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ומשה עבדו ובישראל עמו בנביאי האמת והצדק. וירפא לאדוני מנחת יהודה בירושלים, כי מי עולם וכשדים קדמוניות, וקרבתי עליכם למשפט, והייתי על ממהר במכשפים ומאפים, בני שבאים לשקר, והשקע שכר, שכיר אלמנה, ויתום מתי גר, ולא יראוני אמר אדוני צבאות, כי אני אדוני לא שניתי, ואתם בני יעקב לכליתם.
We are going to pick up in the middle of the Haftarah, chapter 3, verse 13. You have spoken harsh words against me, said the Lord. But you ask, what have we been saying among ourselves against you? You have said, it is useless to serve God. What have we gained by keeping his charge and walking in abject awe in the Lord of hosts? And so we account the arrogant happy. They have indeed done evil and endured. They have indeed dared God and escaped. In this vein have those who revere the Lord been talking to one another. The Lord has heard and noted it, and a scroll of remembrance has been written at his behest concerning those who revere the Lord and esteem his name. And on the day that I am preparing, said the Lord of hosts, they shall be my treasured possession. I will be tender toward them as a man is tender toward a son who ministers to him. And you shall come to see the difference between the righteous and the wicked, between him who has served God and him who has not served God. For lo, that day is at hand, burning like an oven. All the arrogant and all the doers of evil shall be straw, and the day that is coming, said the Lord of hosts, shall burn them to ashes, and leave them neither stock nor bows. But for you who revere my name, a son of victory shall rise to bring healing. You shall go forth and stamp like stall-fed calves, and you shall trample the wicked to a pulp. For they shall be dust beneath your feet on the day that I am preparing, said the Lord of hosts. Be mindful of the teaching of my servant Moses, whom I charged at Horeb with laws and rules for all Israel. Lo, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the awesome, fearful day of the Lord. He shall reconcile parents with children, and children with their parents, so that when I come, I do not strike the whole land with utter destruction. And then the tradition is that we repeat that last line of the Haftarah. Lo, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the awesome, fearful day of the Lord.
בזכרו תורת משה עבדי אשר ציוויתי אותו בחורב על כל ישראל חוקים ומשפטים הנה אנוכי שולח לכם את אליה הנביא לפני פה יום אדוני הגדול והנורא ושיב לב אבות על בנים ולב בנים על אבותם פן אפו והכיתי את הארץ חרם הנה אנוכי שולח לכם את אליה הנביא לפני פה יום אדוני הגדול והנורא. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, צור כל עולמים, צדיק בכל הדורות. הילה נאמן האומר ועושה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים. על יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד עולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
We rise as the Torah is returned to the ark.
ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
At this point, we remember those who are no longer with us physically, but are here in spirit. We remember Dr. A. Clifford Foster, who died over the past 30 days, for whom we are observing Shloshim. We remember these whose yortzites, the anniversary of their passing, we commemorate this Shabbat. Philip Allman, Joseph Baumol, Chaim Belloc, Sonia Belloc, Lee Deutsch Berliner, Arnold Byrne, Charles Byrne, Frida L. Bloom, Jack Brenner, Jerome Perkins, Joseph Clark, Miles Cummins, Gussie Davidman, Erwin Feinsilver, Julius Fishman, Jack Gelbwax, Anna Goldberg, Jack Goldberg, Craig Gorson, Jackson A. Gould, Morris Haber, Esther C. Harris, Gloria Hartman, Abraham Hirsch, Irving Hoder, Bernice Israelson, Nurit Kalimi, Anna Kastenbaum, Stanley Corman, Raymond Lakritz, Harriet Lynn, Sarah Lipson, Anna Meyer, Catherine E. Murphy, Joseph Notice, Max Piken, Lola Lillian Ribbler, Jacob Rubenstein, Sarah Saperston, Marcia Saperstein, Sylvia Shanerman, Saul Schmulowitz, Lawrence Simon, Jack Slavin, Lillian Stein, Geraldine Waldman, Harry Weiss, Herman Winton, Sally Zuckerman, Joan Zweifler. We join together for Kadisha Tom Warner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach rute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'elam u'lamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah.
Brichu.
Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav. Huyaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru.
Amen.
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved. As together we say, Amen. Once again, I want to wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom, and well, we'll get to Pesach in a minute. Say thank you to all of our service sponsors, to Margot Brilliant and Robert Schwartz in honor of their anniversary, Merritt and Ellen Halem in honor of Merritt's cousin, Marcia Saperstein, Jane Hiller and Nancy Simon in memory of your brother Larry, and in honor of the anniversary of your Benot Mitzvah. And again, thank you, Stephanie Hirsch and family, in honor of Henry's special birthday. We have a couple of things, not the least of which is Pesach. Tonight, we hope you'll enjoy a Seder wherever you are. You can join us tomorrow morning for first day Pesach services right here in our usual spot on either TSND TV or on our Facebook page. And also, please put in your calendar next Saturday. Hey, if you're here for Shabbat, well, you'll be here for last day Pesach services, which will include Yizkor. If you are looking for a second night Seder, hope you'll join Cantor Norman and I tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. If you have little ones at home, you want just something really fun, join Rabbi David and Cantor Norman and I an hour before at 5 o'clock tomorrow for our Silly Seder. And then I'm excited that we're at the end of March, which means that we begin April, and right after Pesach, we're going to have a month of fun activities and wonderful teachers to celebrate my special rabbinic anniversaries. And I hope you will join us each Friday. You can join us any Shabbat, but we have 5 Shabbatot in April. The first one is Pesach, so putting that one aside. Second, third, fourth, and fifth, we will have on Friday nights guest teachers, friends, colleagues, mentors of mine who will be sharing their Torah with us. And then during the week, we will have wonderful, some really fun programs, all online, all free, And if you want information on that, you can go to tsnd.org/anniversary. With that, I believe we are going to continue with Ein Keloheinu.
Yes, before that, again, I want to say that on the Sinai Scene, next Sinai Scene, you will have some instructions what is going to happen for Spring Music Festival. I need you to give you this heads up only because we only have a very small window for you to do what I ask you to do, which is think about some questions that you want to ask the artists that we are going to gather for that Spring Music Festival. So please open that Sinai Scene. You will have all of it because by Friday next week we need to have all these questions so that I can start interviewing the artist in what's going to be a really wonderful concert. So stay tuned. You will get information next week.
I am really excited about this because it's like 10 concerts all in one.
Yes.
We have so many artists who have come and done one. Now we get them all in small pieces.
Yes,
so
and I'm telling you, great. All the, you remember all these artists that came. This is amazing that they said yes to this, and I'm really excited too.
I know I should know this, Cantor. What's the date of
the
Spring
date.
Music Festival? So
Date
that you can
is
put it
going
in
to
your
be
calendar.
on Erev Shavuot.
Erev Shavuot, right? That's right.
Erev Shavuot on Sunday, May 16 at 8 p.m.
There you go. All right, we are going to now we'll conclude with the
Ein Keloheinu, ein Keloheinu, ein Kemalkeinu, ein Kemoshienu, mi Keloheinu, mi Keloheinu, mi Kemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu, no del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Elokeinu, no del Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atau Eloheinu, Atau Adonenu, Atau Malkeinu, Atau Moshienu.
We join together for Vishamru, Kiddush, and Motzi.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. פניבם בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. זכור את יום השבת לקדשו, remember the Shabbat and sanctify it. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגאפל.
Amen. Last time for Challah, at least for a week. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat Shalom and an early Hag Sameach.